The hardest part of today's video is just figuring out how to start it. The most recent episode of Helluva presented us with yet another layer of Blitz's psychology, one that I hate to say made him feel more relatable than ever. Apology Tour made it clear that at the end of the day, one of Blitz's biggest issues is that he doesn't think that he deserves to be loved, and really, he can't handle being loved. And it's not enough that he just ends relationships when that becomes a potential problem. But rather, what Blitz does even when he isn't being vile to others is he self-sabotages. So let's talk about the very complex reasons that Blitz does that, and really why a lot of us do that. Because as simple as it is for any of us to say that we deserve love and that everyone deserves love, a lot of us find ourselves suddenly unable to handle it when people do try to love us, and like Blitz, we can self-sabotage. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to the channel, and let's dive into it. Now, what this episode proved to me was that among the many, almost seemingly contradictory issues that Blitz has, the one that ties it all together is this sense Blitz has that he can't be loved. It started with him expressing to Fizz that elites and royals could never love imps like the two of them, but with Verosika's party of Blitz's exes, that idea quickly expanded. Blitz went from someone who just so happened to date elites like Verosika and Stolas to someone who had slept with half of the background cast in Helluva, and perhaps even a few of the real-life crew members who had self-inserted their Hellsonas into the party. Now, the reality of these people as exes of Blitz is a bit blurry. Quite a few of them are there and have something against Blitz, but many of them can be one-night stands who he may not have been all that attached to. But there are some people who are there that he legitimately hurt, we can see. We don't know their stories, but we know that Blitz robbed Verosika of her car and credit cards just after Verosika had told Blitz that she loved him. As Verosika says, Blitz knows how to find the most cruel way to send a message, and the message he was trying to send Verosika was that he didn't care for her at all. Now, that probably wasn't true, and in fact, he may have had some serious feelings for her, in a situation not that different from the one he ended up in with Stolas, one where he has to convince himself that he's only in Verosika's life because of the value he brings as a bodyguard and a partner in bed. Without those two, Blitz imagines himself as useless, but as long as he can provide those, he feels loved. The problem came when Verosika actually said she loved him, and that set off his danger alarms. In Blitz's mind, he has to be useful, not loved. Being useful makes him feel loved, and if someone's saying they love him and perhaps moving him away from a role where he felt useful, he fears that means he's going to be abandoned entirely. You have to remember that as a child, this was the relationship Blitz had with his father. In Season 2, Episode 1, Childhood Blitz makes it clear that he has strong feelings of love for his mother and sister, and because of that, his father is able to manipulate him into being useful. This dynamic with his father is what shaped Blitz, as Cash Buxo forced him to do dangerous things like steal from the Goetia, and made himself the barrier between Blitz and his mother when he wouldn't agree to such plans. Even if a mother gives her love freely, Blitz's dynamic with his father would have shaped him to see that providing value was how you proved your love to those people, and he would have taken that not just into future relationships, but future interactions as a whole. One thing that is clear is that Blitz desires to be loved, and that he doesn't trust love when it's given to him. The biggest mistake most people probably made at the party of exes was probably just being too kind to Blitz and expressing how they feel about him. When it's about two people using each other, or even just one person using Blitz, he is really into it. But once someone says that they truly appreciate him, he has to believe there is something wrong with them. Blitz was introduced as a character that is just chasing after everyone, being attracted to everyone, and trying to get way too close to anyone who will let him. But anytime someone starts to show interest in him, he suddenly can't stand them. With Moxie and Millie, he does nothing but chase them, and because of that, they keep him at arm's length, especially Moxie. With Stolas, on the other hand, it's Blitz who acts passive and bored, and I don't think this is just the case with him, as even at Beelzebub's party, we see the same basic behavior play out. Here, Blitz goes on a spree of attracting as many people to him as he can without going all the way. Anytime he gets to the point where someone is clearly into him, he has to suddenly push them away and act like he needs a different partner. What we get here is a rapid reenactment of every relationship and really hookup that he's been in, with as many guests at this party as possible, needing to be chased and used instead of committing to someone or even wanting to be committed to. There's a lot of exes at Veroska's party who likely just had very simple moments like Dennis had with Blitz at Beelzebub's party, just enjoying Blitz but then being pushed away aggressively when they showed too much affection. Likewise, when Stolas shows affection to Blitz, Blitz pushes Stolas away, and rationalizes it essentially as Stolas' roleplay. He knows he wants Stolas in this case, but can't rationalize that Stolas wants him, and so his default is to first play dumb, and then afterwards to get angry, to yell, and when given the opportunity to try and make things work with Stolas, curse at Stolas instead. Stolas had his own issues I'm looking forward to discussing in his own video, but even with his own issues, what Stolas ultimately became upset about was Blitz refusing to acknowledge that Stolas had shown legitimate affection to him since the very beginning. You have to remember that their interactions go back long before the grimoire was put between them, and Stolas already had feelings for Blitz because of the way Blitz appeared in his life as a child. Even when being open to talk, Blitz's issue is that he thinks Stolas is some elitist who doesn't see Blitz as a true equal the way you should a romantic partner. Blitz does want to work through their issues at the end of Full Moon, it seems, but what it boils down to is him wanting Stolas to admit he was using Blitz, even though that wasn't really the case. He was just forcing Blitz to be in his life because he already did have some feelings for him. But why does Blitz self-sabotage, and really, why do we all self-sabotage? It is unfortunately a lot more common than people realize to grow up with or even spend your entire life thinking your family is loving and caring when really they are not. When you were shaped by toxic adults from the time you are a child, you don't always get to see that something is wrong in your situation. Instead, you use the few easier moments you have together to rationalize that anything bad that happens ultimately happens out of love, that your parents are doing something to teach you an important lesson about life instead of something that simply benefits them while you suffer. Blitz saw not just what love his usefulness would buy him from his dad, but also how much more Fizzarali was able to get from him by being much more useful at Buxo Circus. And like with Blitz, when people see how much love others can get from our own family or even our own friends, we begin to rationalize that we are not as good as everyone else out there, that it is natural for everyone else to be attracted to each other and to want each other, but not for us to be considered special or important to people in that same way. With Blitz, this generally manifests as aggression towards others, but this seems to be rooted in one particular relationship, with an ex who didn't seem to show up to the party, but who still seems to be out there somewhere in hell. There will be a video on that possibility soon, but Blitz has made it abundantly clear that this is something another royal has done to him in his argument with Stolas, that some other royal elite demon had hurt Blitz in this exact same way. For the audience, this behavior likely manifests in your own life in different ways. One thing a lot of people tend to do is just ruin themselves for other people. You might take something that you actually love about yourself and present it as a reason that you are horrible and that no one should ever like you. Some people don't just present it that way, but rather insist upon it. When someone else says that they do like you and even like the things you present as flaws, you become too blind to take that possibility seriously. The rationalization becomes that at best, this person is just intrigued by the very little they know about you, and that after spending very little time with you, they'll begin to see those same things as very negative. Because this really can happen to all of us really, people who self-sabotage will rationalize that this is the only thing that happens, that no one can ever get feelings for you because it always has to be this temporary intrigue brought on more so by the mystery of you than the actual persona that you present. This isn't that different from Blitz's own rationalization, that just because some royal deep in his past strung him along and convinced Blitz that he loved him before pulling the rug out from under him, that Stolas is going to do the exact same thing. And that is why Blitz in particular has gone dark, you might say. He will self-sabotage just like you and me or anyone else might, mostly ruining themselves for the other person, but because he was so painfully hurt by someone who had led him on, hurting the other person becomes his coping mechanism. He has taught himself that when someone shows those feelings, you are supposed to hurt them, that this is the norm in hell, when the truth is that hell seems to be full of people who still just want to feel close to another person, despite their supposed evil nature. Blitz is no different from a human who has convinced himself that we are all just animals, beasts who are meant to fight and snap at each other and be passionately sexual with each other, but not actually be close and share romantic feelings. But what about you guys? If you feel like opening up today, talk about your experience in the comments down below. And if you don't feel like opening up, you are still legally required to leave a comment if you felt personally attacked by the way I described self-sabotage in this video. See you guys next time.